In July 2025, Riyadh's palace meeting room is a crucible of history and ambition. The air is thick with anticipation, as the world's eyes turn to this gilded chamber, waiting for a breakthrough that could alter the course of the Middle East. American and Saudi diplomats sit across a polished table, their words measured, their documents heavy with the potential to reshape the Middle East. Every gesture, every exchanged glance, carries the weight of decades of conflict and the hope for a new era. The centerpiece, Saudi Arabia's formal recognition of Israel in exchange for U.S. security guarantees and nuclear assistance. This is a diplomatic dance with global implications, a move that could redraw alliances and shift the region's balance of power. But this time, a new, non-negotiable demand dominates. There must be a credible pathway to a Palestinian state. The negotiators know that without this, no agreement will hold, and the region's wounds will only deepen. The trauma of the recent Gaza war lingers, fueling Arab outrage and making the Palestinian issue central to any deal. The devastation is fresh, the pain raw, and the demand for justice louder than ever. For Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, this is no longer just about security or economics, it's about legitimacy and legacy. His vision for Saudi Arabia's future, and his own place in history, rests on the outcome of these talks. The American delegation, representing a second Trump administration, seeks a historic win, but the Israeli government remains deeply resistant to Palestinian statehood. The stakes are high, and every word is scrutinized by allies and adversaries alike. The room is tense, the silence between proposals echoing with the losses of both peoples. Each pause is filled with memories of missed opportunities and the hope that this time, things might be different. Over 50,000 Palestinians killed, Israeli hopes for peace shattered. These are the stakes. The human cost is impossible to ignore, and the urgency for a solution has never been greater. The world watches Riyadh, hoping diplomacy can succeed where violence has failed. News crews from every continent broadcast updates, capturing the tension and the fragile optimism that fills the city. This is more than a negotiation. It's a test of whether hope can survive in a land scarred by conflict. Families across the region hold their breath, yearning for a future where peace is more than a distant dream. The conversation is not just about borders and security pacts. It is about whether hope itself has a future in this land. Every map drawn, every agreement drafted, is a step toward either reconciliation or renewed strife. The diplomats know, what happens here could define the region for generations. Their decisions will echo far beyond these palace walls, shaping the destinies of millions. The outcome is uncertain, but the urgency is undeniable. Time is running out, and the world waits for a sign that peace is possible. In Riyadh, the future of the Middle East hangs in the balance. The choices made here will ripple across borders and generations, carrying with them the fragile promise of a new dawn. The conflict endures because it's not a single problem but a web of clashing narratives and unsolved issues. Israelis see a sanctuary, Palestinians see a lost homeland. Each side's history negates the other's. Jerusalem, refugees, borders, settlements, and security, every issue is a minefield. Leadership failures and political paralysis on both sides empower extremists and perpetuate violence. External powers, regional rivalries, and biased mediation only deepen the divide. The result, a perpetual cycle of grievance and retaliation, seemingly without end. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's vision for Saudi Arabia was once about modernization and economic power. He set out to transform the kingdom, aiming to diversify its oil-dependent economy and open up Saudi society to the world. His ambitious vision. 2030 plan promised a new era for the country, blending tradition with innovation. Normalizing with Israel was a pragmatic step, until the Gaza war reignited Arab solidarity with Palestine. The conflict shifted public opinion across the region, making it impossible for Saudi leaders to ignore the deep-rooted support for the Palestinian cause. Now, demanding a Palestinian state is a political necessity, not a bargaining chip. For MBS, it's become a central pillar of his foreign policy, reflecting both regional pressures and the aspirations of his own people. MBS is betting big, championing the Palestinian cause to reclaim Arab leadership and secure a U.S. defense pact. He hopes this bold stance will strengthen Saudi Arabia's influence and guarantee its security in a volatile region. The rewards could be historic: peace, prosperity, and a legacy as a regional statesman. If successful, MBS could reshape the Middle East's future and cement his place in history as a transformative leader. but the risks are immense. Israel's government resists statehood, and failure could undermine MBS's authority. The path forward is fraught with diplomatic obstacles and unpredictable consequences. By elevating the Palestinian issue, he stirs powerful forces, Arab nationalism, political Islam, that could threaten his own reforms. These forces have shaped the region for decades and could easily turn against him if expectations are not met. The Saudi gambit is a bold play, one that could either usher in a new era of peace or prove that even the most powerful leaders are captive to the region's unforgiving history. The outcome remains uncertain, with every move watched closely by allies and rivals alike. The stakes are personal, national, and regional. MBS's reputation, Saudi Arabia's future, and the hopes of millions across the Middle East all hang in the balance. MBS walks a tightrope, balancing ambition with the passions of his people. Every decision is scrutinized, and a single misstep could have far-reaching consequences. The outcome will shape not just Saudi Arabia, but the entire Middle East. The world is watching, waiting to see if this high-stakes bet will pay off, or if history will repeat itself once again. For decades, American support for Israel was a bipartisan given, rooted in shared democratic values, strategic interests, and a sense of moral responsibility. Politicians from both parties stood shoulder to shoulder, presenting a united front to the world. The alliance was seen as unshakable, a cornerstone of U.S. foreign policy. But the Gaza war shattered that consensus, exposing deep generational and political divides that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. The violence and devastation broadcast into American homes forced many to question long-held assumptions. Today, most Democrats and a growing number of young Republicans view Israel unfavorably, driven by graphic images of civilian suffering and a new focus on human rights. Social media amplifies these voices, making it impossible for leaders to ignore the shifting tide. President Trump now faces a fractured electorate. Evangelicals and older conservatives demand unwavering loyalty to Israel, while youth and progressives demand justice for Palestinians and a rethinking of U.S. priorities. The days of a unified American voice are over. The debate is now loud, public, and deeply contentious, spilling from the halls of Congress into the streets and onto digital platforms. This shift complicates U.S. diplomacy, making any peace deal harder to sell at home and forcing leaders to balance international strategy with domestic unrest. The conscience of America is shifting, and as it does, the ground beneath one of the most enduring alliances in U.S. foreign policy is becoming increasingly unstable, with every new crisis deepening the divide. The conflict is no longer distant. It's a domestic fault line, running through communities, campuses, and even family dinner tables. U.S. policy must now navigate not just foreign leaders, but a nation divided against itself, where every decision is scrutinized and debated. The future of American involvement in the Middle East is more uncertain than ever, with each new development raising fresh questions about the nation's role and responsibilities. The stakes are global, but the debate is personal, touching the lives and consciences of ordinary Americans in ways never seen before. The world is watching America too, waiting to see how this divided nation will shape the future of a conflict that reverberates far beyond its own borders. Beneath the surface, a new force is rising, a generation of young Arabs shaped by the digital age. For years, the Palestinian cause felt distant to them, overshadowed by economic and social concerns. The Gaza war changed everything, making the conflict immediate and personal through social media. Videos and stories from Gaza forged a visceral connection, sparking activism and a renewed sense of Arab identity. In Saudi Arabia and beyond, public opposition to normalization without a Palestinian state has surged. This is a bottom-up movement. Leaders can't ignore it. The future of Palestinian-Israeli relations will not be decided by diplomats alone. It will be shaped by the passions, demands, and digital power of a generation that has just found its voice. This youth movement could drive bold peace, or harden resistance. One thing is certain, the region's future belongs to its youth. Turkey's relationship with Israel is a study in contradictions. President Erdogan denounces Israel loudly, championing the Palestinian cause to his base. Yet behind the scenes, trade with Israel thrives, even during conflict. Economic needs outweigh political posturing. Erdogan won't risk Turkey's fragile economy. This duality, fiery rhetoric, pragmatic commerce, is common across the region. Economic ties can stabilize, but they can't heal deep wounds or replace real political solutions. The Turkish paradox is a warning. Leaders may say one thing and do another, but the public sees the gap. Real peace requires more than trade deals. Skepticism about new peace deals is rooted in decades of disappointment. Oslo promised a Palestinian state, but delivered only limited autonomy and expanding settlements. Peace with Egypt and Jordan normalized governments, not peoples, leaving Palestinians behind. The Abraham Accords sidelined the Palestinian issue entirely, trading normalization for U.S. favors. Each process left Palestinians feeling abandoned, their leverage eroded. Now, Saudi demands for a credible pathway are met with deep suspicion. What does credible even mean? Until diplomacy delivers real, irreversible change, the ghosts of failed peace will haunt every new promise. Trust must be rebuilt with actions, not words. The future stands at a crossroads. One path leads to a negotiated settlement, the other to endless conflict. The hopeful path Saudi-Israeli normalization sparks a Palestinian state, backed by U.S. and Arab guarantees, economic aid, and mutual recognition. This would require historic compromises and sustained international pressure. The alternative diplomacy collapses, violence escalates, and the region sinks deeper into despair. Israel becomes more isolated, Palestinians more desperate, and extremists on both sides gain ground. Regional instability grows, empowering Iran and threatening neighbors. The choice is stark: courageous leadership or default disaster. The decision is being made now, in real time. The world's attention and its hopes are fixed on the outcome. The stakes could not be higher. The Palestinian-Israeli conflict is not a distant feud, it's a global fault line. Instability here fuels extremism, disrupts trade, and diverts resources from other crises. The conflict polarizes societies worldwide, fueling anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. It tests the credibility of international law and the institutions meant to uphold it. The world should care because this conflict is a barometer of our shared humanity. Peace would send a message of hope. Endless violence would signal global failure. The consequences reach everyone, everywhere. This is a future we all have a stake in.